Hi, friends, it's Heidi M. I am starting my coverage of the Slamdance Film Festival for this year, 2024. The festival will begin later this week, around January 19th in Utah. I'm covering remotely this year as unfortunately I'm not able to travel due to other commitments. But to sort of start you off in terms of the festival, I'm bringing you an interview with writer and director Omar S. Kamara. Omar's first feature film, African Giants, is going to have its premiere at Slamdance later this week. He spoke with me about the inspiration for the film, some of the personal aspects are part of the story. The film revolves around Haji, who is the older brother living in LA. He's an aspiring actor who gets a nice, fun visit from his younger brother, Sheku, who is a law student, and sort of what that weekend looks like when it comes to the brothers being both first generation Sierra Leonean American, what it looks like in terms of navigating the cultural aspects of their lives, parental expectations, their own personal expectations, and so many other things. I really enjoyed my discussion about the film with Omar, and I hope that you enjoy it as well. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Omar Kamara. Hi, friends. It's Heidi M. I'm virtually sitting here with writer-director Omar S. Kamara. Nice to meet you, Omar.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk with you.
Likewise. So we're speaking to you about your first feature, I believe, that is going to be premiering at Slamdance Film Festival. Is that right?
That is all correct. Yes.
Awesome. Before we dive into the film, maybe just giving us a little bit of an intro about yourself, your segue into filmmaking and writing, and sort of the passion that you have for making films.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Omar. I'm originally from Virginia, so born and raised. Both my parents are from Sierra Leone in West Africa. And so if you know anything about African parents, that means that the acceptable career paths were a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. And my older sister actually is a surgeon, and I'm number two. So I actually kind of ruined everything when I came along. But I fell in love with filmmaking actually. Like as a kid, I always loved Treasure Planet was a big inspiration for me. It's actually the background on my phone, all that stuff. But when I was in college, a friend of mine showed me Blue Valentine, which is a film by Derek Cianfrance, and it literally changed I feel like molecules in me. Like I was kind of like being very tough at the time and prided myself on not crying. And I watched that film and I sobbed in my dorm. I was 19 and I sobbed. And I was like, whatever this is, I want to make that. So I decided to start pursuing filmmaking. And I told my dad, who had a plan for me to be a doctor. And he said, if there's one thing you need to know about me, it's that I have a very strong will. And if I never have to talk to you again, I'll never talk to you again. Oh. And we didn't speak a word to each other after that for like six months. Now, the good news is, me and my father have since reconciled. And in fact, he is the biggest fan of my filmmaking career now, which is very funny. But I bring that up to say it definitely making that decision was like one of the biggest touchstones of my life. And you'll see in a lot of my work, it's about my relationship with my father. In fact, in African Giants, that line is in there because that moment meant a lot to me. But I got the bug. I was fixated on filmmaking. And so after I had that conversation with him, I applied to film school, came out here to AFI, made my short, and now just, I'm very honored to make my first feature. But yeah, that's my background.
No, that's great. And thank you for mentioning that line because it kind of stuck with me too when I was screening the film.
Okay.
And congratulations, you won the pitch competition at the Austin Film Fest as well, right?
Oh yes, yeah, I did, yeah. And that was for a project called Mass Ave, which was about me and my dad's relationship. We did a short version, but that pitch was for the feature. But yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, that was a lot of that.
I love finding these little tidbits about people because there's always a segue into like a first feature, right? Like you might start with some shorts, or maybe you write for other folks, and then eventually you kind of become something bigger. So what I'm getting is that you're also really keen in exploring like parental relationships, but with African Giants, which is this film that is going to be at Slamdance, you're also exploring brotherly relationships. So, from what I'm gathering, there's a little bit of autobiographical content too. I don't want to give too much away. I think people should see the film, but What was that, now when you sat down to write the feature, how did you realize that it was going to be about these two brothers and then eventually they were going to go through so many layers on a weekend visit to LA?
Thank you so much. I think for me, the seed of the idea was actually a quote that my mom said. So when I was very young, my mom said, "Be careful how you behave. Your little brother is watching you. You're his hero." And I remember when she said that, feeling like a lot of pressure because I'm like 9 and I'm like, I'm still figuring myself out. And now I'm apparently living to inspire somebody else. That's a lot going on. And so I kind of carry that throughout my life. And me and my little brother are very, very close. So 100% you are right. It is mostly autobiographical. I can like, it's probably like 95% autobiographical. There's little things I changed that we could definitely talk about. But to give away a little bit, there's a moment in the film that's based off my real life, which is unfortunately, I was not in the best position. I was a little bit intoxicated, a little bit out of my element, and I was, you could say, embarrassing myself at a party. And my little brother took me to my room, and while I was scared, I said, "Please don't leave me." And
Hmm.
my little brother, who I was supposed to be a hero for, sat down and took care of me the entire time. And that moment, that quote that my mom said, at that moment, I realized that my little brother, even though I'm supposed to be a hero and I'm supposed to be the person he's taking care of him, he also can be my hero and he can take care of me and he can help me. And that really happened in my life. And so that was the seed that I built everything off of. And my little brother, he always tells me, he thinks that I read more into that moment. He's like, "It's no big deal. You're my brother. I have to help you." But to me, it was a very impactful moment. And so that was the inspiration behind it. And then we filled it with a bunch of other conversations that my brother and I have had over time. So it wasn't all over the course of this weekend, but conversations we had over the years about being first generation, stuff with our dad, all these tension. I kind of keep conversations in my notes document, which a lot of people who love me are annoyed by because I'm like, that was a good thing. I keep this, but I copied and pasted and kind of put it in. So yeah, that was the inspiration behind it.
Interesting. And how many drafts did you go through until you got to the final version?
Well, I'm very fortunate that I think what happens is I think I take so long to outline. Usually, I'm like a big outliner. So before I even go to pages, I have written it scene by scene and know
Oh,
what's going to say, what the arcs are, all these things. And so I literally had my outline that took a long time, but we only actually did 3 drafts to get to the final version that was in the film because that was, it was already outlined and the conversations were in there. But then I always take my first draft and give it to my team. I have a bunch of key collaborators that made my short and not my feature. So they're my first round of notes. Then I open it up to my loved ones, and then they give me notes, and then we kind of just go from there. So it was 3 drafts to the final version, and it was great because I was working as a director's assistant at the time, and I literally wrote the draft at nights and on weekends when we weren't shooting. So it was a hectic schedule, but I'm very proud that now the film is done and out there.
excellent. So was there a long production process in terms of like shooting, scheduling, and then post?
Not too long. We shot the film. So we shot the film in 16 days. I think we fully decided. I think the first draft was in December 2021, and we shot in July of 2022 for 16 days. So it was about 6 months. The really tricky part was me and my producing partner were fundraising for the film while in pre-production. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but I stubbornly was like, we're shooting in July, no matter what happens. So let's figure it out. And so we're literally kind of my producing partner would always say, we were building this thing while we were flying it. And so we were building it while we were flying it and just finding the money, having pitch meetings, working on the script, working with the PD, bringing out the team, fleshing it out. And so luckily, everything kind of came together through the hard work of my team. And we got the money, shot for 16 days, and then we had the post process. And to be honest, we actually were done with the film quite quickly in terms of editing, but we spent extra time with the score in terms of like dealing with like licenses cleaning and just developing with my wonderful composer. So that took a little bit of extra time.
Interesting. Yeah, I noticed the music, so I will shout out Justin as well. I like the music in the film. Let's talk about your leads.
Can I say a quick thing about Justin?
Yes, of course.
Justin is literally one of my key collaborators. He's one of the people who get the script first.
Uh,
And when I was at AFI, I had saw one of his scores. He went to USC, and I started crying when I read when I listened to his score. And so I messaged him and I was like, man, we got to work together. We did our short together. We did my feature together. We're doing my next film together. And he is, to me, literally a genius. That music, he wrote a song in the film that is in Creole, which is my Sierra Leonean language, that he taught himself, wrote it, translated it, and actually he sings on one of the songs.
Oh,
So
wow.
he's literally like a I call him a genius. He's literally like a musical genius. So I'm glad you like the music.
Yeah, no, I do. I think it fits the film really well, in terms of like not just culturally, but like the energy in the film, right?
Yeah.
I did want to obviously shout out your two leads. You have Dylan Mutyaba and Tynell Wavers, is it? No, sorry, that's the girlfriend. And Amit Nanas. Um,
Yeah.
what was that discussion like with your two, like the two brothers, like the leads, and sort of knowing that, did they know that this was also autobiographical, and did you give them any kind of additional context?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, especially for the type of film I do, performance is very important. Like we're with them most of the time, so we have to be with them and believe them and with them the most time. So I had worked with a casting director named Suzanne Yavuz at AFI, and she cast my short. And one of the things that's important to me is to cast actors who are first generation African. I think there's just a certain nuance to the experience, and I know actors can play other characters, but I just feel like I want them to bring some of their lived experience to this role. So the actor who actually plays the Omete, who plays the younger brother, he actually was cast in my short. He played that also was autobiographical, so he played a version of me in that short. And so when I wrote this film, I actually wrote it with him in mind. So this time he was playing the younger brother. And when we were on set, he was applying to Juilliard, and he actually of my short, and he got into Juilliard and attended Juilliard, and he came back in the summer between the second and third year at Juilliard and shot this film. And the crazy story is that the casting director showed me Dylan's tape. I felt completely in love with Dylan. I call him the Ugandan Marlon Brando. I feel like he has such a presence without speaking. He does all these things, a very natural actor. And I cast him, and I found out shortly after that he just got accepted into Juilliard and was assigned at Juilliard as Omete's little brother. So they're kind of flipped. He's his mentor. They're flipped in real life. But we did rehearsals. I kind of lovingly stole rehearsals from Asghar Farhadi. And what we did was we did these real rehearsals where instead of going over the script, what we would do is go over lived experiences. So, for example, one of the characters, he breaks up with his girlfriend. So we got a studio and had them recreate when your brother broke up with his girlfriend and you came to visit him, what happened? And what was great is in those moments, I'm telling them all the personal stuff that happened, that really happened to me. My brother really did come check on me. And they're recreating these moments and kind of building a backstory and building a shared history that they have real memories to, as opposed to being told. And I hope that kind of showcases in the film and in their relationship.
Yeah, I think it does. I really appreciated this point of view, because I think there are a lot more of these first generation people now who are trying to navigate adulthood, and sort of, still being connected to family and parents, especially, even though that there may be things where we don't see eye to eye on, but the value of, that connection that you'll always have, not just as siblings, but as family, given all this extra kind of baggage that we have with us, right?
Absolutely. And that's kind of like my mission statement as a filmmaker. The thing that's most important to me is putting the first generation experience specifically on the screen. Because as you so beautifully said, there's so many nuances to it. Like we're figuring out life here, but then we have this backstory and this history and parents with a very different mindset and very different culture than we are, and trying to explain to them how things are different, but all these things. And so I kind of hope, if possible, if the dreams I have in my head are possible, is to kind of be like one of the voices of that, of bringing these first generation stories, hopefully eventually to the mainstream. So that's kind of like, what my mission statement as a filmmaker.
Thank you. I really appreciate that point of view as well. Not just as well, I'm not a first generation, I'm an immigrant child, but still just knowing that we have to navigate these different cultural identities and, all of these things at the same time. So I'm excited to see how Slamdance goes for you. What are you hoping to get out of this experience, and what's next?
Yeah, it's great. I think for me right now, what I'm just so thrilled by is having great conversations with people like you about the film and then bringing it to a bigger audience. When you make something that, especially that's this personal, you never know how people are going to react. And so I'm really excited to bring it to a bigger audience and to be in a theater and hear. And so next up, the thing is I've always been prepping my next feature called Rice. And then I also have like an MMA movie that's like a sports drama. It's kind of like my version of Creed, but it's also about African identity that's currently in development and we're currently looking for funding for. So it's a lot of great things going, but I'm just excited to be able to share the film with people. And I've learned in this industry not to put too many expectations on things, but just to be proud of the product and go to the space and celebrate that, and hope it resonates with people. That's where my mind is right now.
That's great. Has your family seen the film, or is this going to be their first time as well?
So my brother was one of the first people to read the script and one of the first people to see the film. So he has seen it, and my siblings. My parents want to wait and see it. They're not coming to Utah; it's too far for them. They're in Virginia,
Yeah.
but they want to see it on a big screen. So when hopefully I have a festival on the East Coast, I'll bring them and they'll see it. But the other funny thing I'll say is my brother. I made the film before, like in 2020, we shot 2022. My brother actually since then has actually moved to LA and is currently working on his first short film right now. So the film was a little bit prophetic in that way. He lives right down the street from me now. So we're we're kind of in the trenches together.
Excellent. Well, my congratulations to him too, and good wishes.
Thank you. I really
Um,
appreciate it.
I'm mindful of time here, but I also wanted to know, is there, how about we do some plugs? Like, do you have a website, social media? If people want to know more about your work, where can they find you?
Absolutely. So you can find me at omarskamara.com. So that's my website. And then my Instagram is oskamara. And then at African Giants Film is the African Giants Film page. So you can follow our festival journey. We have a couple things up, like the poster, some things that will be dropping soon. So yeah, please follow and take part in the journey. We'd appreciate it.
Excellent. I'll be sure to post it so that people have the links as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Omar. I appreciate your time and best wishes. I wish I was in Utah with you in a few weeks, but I'm sure it's going to be a good time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Pleasure talking to you.
Likewise. Thanks.